Hello everyone, I'm Lowell Taylor. Welcome to Bible Science Happening. Today we're going to focus in on prophetic points that have happened, are happening, and that are going to happen. And this is based off of the book of Daniel. Number two, the book of Revelation. Number three, it's about a poster that I put together a few years back. Now, this poster, let me go ahead and show it to you. This poster right here, it has 210 prophetic points leading up to, it's 192 prophetic points leading up to the return of Christ. 193 to 210 is all about his return. Let me see if I can dial this in and show you a little bit about what I'm talking about. So right over here, prophetic point 192, and then prophetic points 193 to 210 is all about the time when Christ returns. Now, what's a prophetic point? Well, real briefly, prophetic point, what I did is I took the prophetic events from the book of Daniel and the book of Revelation relating to our day, and I broke them down into what I call prophetic points. And what I mean by that is that each prophetic event is going to have a beginning point. So that's one prophetic point. And then each prophetic event will typically have an end point. So that's another prophetic point. And then John and Daniel could have mentioned points in between. So taking the prophetic events from those two books relating to our day, breaking them down into prophetic points, I came up with the 210. So what I want to do today is just give you a little overview of this poster here and show you how interesting this is really playing out. Let me talk about this chart for just a second. One of the major discoveries that I have made is finding that both John in the book of Revelation, chapter 17, and also Daniel in chapter 11, they both refer to the same succession of 8 individuals leading up to the return of Christ. One individual after another, after another, after another, in a succession. So if we're anywhere close to the return of Christ, then one of those 8 individuals, 8 kings, is leading up, is alive and ruling today. And that's one of the huge breakthroughs and discoveries that I've made, is to find that the 4th king in the succession of the 8 kings is actually alive and ruling today. And that person is Ayatollah Khomeini over in Iran. So when you ask yourself, when is the last time you remember a current living person being referenced in the Bible? This is a big breakthrough, isn't it? We have Ayatollah Khomeini that is absolutely, positively referenced in the Bible. But it even gets better, because there's another individual that is absolutely referenced in the Bible, and that's President Erdogan of Turkey. Now, if you go to Bible Science Happening and you look here on the website, you'll see that here's a list of just 10 of the several huge major discoveries that I've made relating to Bible Science Insights. And you can read about all of them right over here. One of the other major discoveries is, I'm 99% sure that 1% gap is closing up real quick, that President Trump is referenced in the Bible, as well as the United States. So huge discoveries here. But what we're going to be focusing in again on today is we're going to want to look at the prophetic points that have been happening, and so you can see that that there is credibility in saying these are the prophetic points that I see Daniel and John as mentioning, and they're playing out. And why is that important? Well, again, if these Bible prophecies are mentioning specific kings, and we're starting to see, oh yeah, that's relating to this king here, that's relating to that person over here, we can see that we're on track for Christ to come back in power and glory. Now, what I've done is I've been able to organize, excuse me, I've been able to organize the prophetic points in general order leading up to the return of Christ. And the other thing that I've done is that I have grouped the prophetic points according to which king is in power when it looks like those prophetic points happen. And so all these prophetic points right here are prophetic points that happen pretty much during the time of the fourth king. And then right here, these prophetic points happen during the time of the fifth king, and so on and so forth, all the way through to the eighth king. Now, let's go ahead and get started with this here. I'm going to go ahead and go to another picture of it right here. So, there's three kings. The first three kings, we just don't have that much information on. It's really getting into the fourth king where we start to get the information. But Daniel told us that there are yet three kings in Persia. And Persia today is Iran. In fact, in 1935, Persia was renamed Iran. And then Daniel talks about the fourth king being far richer than the first three. Well, there's a couple of things about Daniel chapter 11. Number one is when you take a look at the prophetic events of the eighth king, which is called the vile person in Daniel chapter 11. You take a look at those prophetic events, and you can readily see those events, they haven't happened. The seventh king, well, that's referred to as a riser of taxes person, and he dies after a few days, so we really can't, well, we haven't been able to lock that in at all. The sixth king, you take a look at what he does, and you can readily see, well, those events haven't happened. And the fifth king, you can look at those and say, oh, those haven't happened either. So we can't be any further than the fourth king. And yet, the fourth king is supposed to be far richer than the first three kings. Now, a Reuters report that was done back in December of 2013, it reported that Ayatollah Khomeini was worth over $95 billion, and that was in 2013. That was before Obama gave Iran hundreds of billions of dollars, and of course, just with oil revenue over the years, I'm sure that Khomeini is far richer than that right now. Now, the three predecessors to Khomeini were worth maybe perhaps $1 to $3 billion each. So you can see that that Khomeini is far richer than the first three kings. But other than knowing that the kings are from Persia, and that the fourth king is going to be far richer than the first three, there's really not that much information. So the first 12 prophetic points over here on the poster, really all we're looking at is that in Daniel chapter 11, verse 2, it's referencing the first king. And so we give a prophetic point for the first king being in power. Revelation chapter 17, verse 12, also talking about the first king. So we give another prophetic point for that king coming into power. And then there's a prophetic point from Daniel and Revelation for that king leaving power. And then more prophetic points for the second king coming into power. And then more prophetic points for the second king leaving power, and then more prophetic points for the third king coming into power, and more prophetic points for the third king leaving power. So that's where those 12 prophetic points come into play. Let's go ahead and move on now. Back in 2013, when I printed up this poster, I was estimating that we were on prophetic point number 15, green. Now, what does prophetic point 15 green mean? Well, the green means that it has happened. The gold means it's possibly happening now, and the red means it's absolutely happening right now. So back in 2013, I said we're on prophetic point number 15. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at prophetic point number 13. Well, before I do that, I was predicting that in 2016 that we would be way down into prophetic point green number 38, and with 39 in process. So we aren't there. Where we're at right now is that as of December 2017, I updated this, and we're on prophetic point number 25, absolutely happening, and then the gold for number 26, and we'll take a look at this as we go along here. But what this does show is that we have a couple of green here, we have some reds here. So what we're seeing is that from 2013 to 2018 now, we have seen significant progress going from prophetic point number 15 to now prophetic point number 25, 26, right around there. And number 27 looks to be knocking on our door. So let's go ahead and take a look at each one of these prophetic points to see what we expected to happen, or is happening, or will happen. In Daniel chapter 11, verse 2, the fourth king of Persia, which is Iran, Khomeini started to rule in 1989. So we give him a prophetic point for that. Now in Revelation chapter 17, verse 10, the fourth king is in power, and so we put a prophetic point for that one too. In prophetic point number 15, in Daniel chapter 11, verse 2, the fourth king of Persia, Iran, which is now this king is Khomeini, is to be far richer than the first three kings. And as I mentioned, Khomeini is worth over $95 billion. So there's a prophetic point for that right there. Now, number 16, Daniel chapter 11, verse 2. The fourth king of Persia, which is Iran, Khomeini, by his strength through his riches, is to stir up all against the Roma Grecia. Well, when you, I have it marked as the United States. And so how did I come up with it being the United States? Well, easy. What I did is I took a look at articles. I took a look at what Khomeini was doing and is doing. And when you take a look at what he has been saying about different countries, there's no country that he talks more smack about than the United States. I mean, no one is close to how much he talks smack about the United States. The far distant second one, of course, is Israel. But we are talked about negatively much more. Now, so he is stirring up everyone against the United States. Now, over at the website, there's you can just scroll down and you'll find article after article about Khomeini stirring up all against the United States, and so that's one way to do it. The other way is that you can go up here to the top, and then you can click on Khomeini stirring up all against the United States over there, and you can also go right over to the right side of the website, and down over here you'll see some articles over here, significant articles over here about Khomeini stirring up all against the United States. So there's a lot of articles that show validation towards Khomeini stirring up all against the United States. In fact, a few months ago, back in September 23rd, 2017, there was it was what's called the G77. So there's a lot of countries that are involved in that group, and in essence, it was about all the G77 that was standing up for the Iranian deal in support of Iran and against Trump in the United States wanting to back down from that. So that was a significant news article there. All right, now let's go over to Prophetic Point. Let's see here, number 17. So over in Prophetic Point number 17. By the way, when you take a look at why did an angel, really, it was started with Grisha referencing the United States, started back in Daniel chapter 8. And so back in Daniel chapter 8, an angel told Daniel about the United States, and he referenced us as calling us Grisha. And so why would we be called Grisha? Well, when you take a look at what the welcoming image is for the United States, what is it? What's that welcoming image for the United States? I'm talking about the Statue of Liberty. And what does it look like? Yeah, it looks like a Greek goddess, doesn't it? And then you take a look at the White House with the big tall pillars, and you take a look at the Supreme Court building and how it's designed. These are Greek architect image structures here, and so perhaps the angel showed Daniel these type of structures, but it's the angel that told Daniel that Grisha is what he called it, and now it turns out that Grisha is the United States. So now let's go over to Prophetic Point number 17. In Prophetic Point number 17, it says Daniel in chapter 8 verse 3, the ram has two horns, and both horns are high, and the second horn is higher than the first. Well, the answer is given in verse 21. Let's go ahead and go over here to Prophetic Point number 18, which is Daniel chapter 8 verse 21. The ram has two horns, which represent two kings, a king from Media and a king from Persia. And now we know that those two areas are Turkey is Media and Iran is Persia. This is really significant. For years, I was baffled about how a king in the Middle East was going to become higher than Khomeini, and I thought for a while maybe it's Ahmadinejad, president of Iran, but he came and went, and he wasn't really showing the signs of really being able to make the progress to be higher than Khomeini, and so I kept an eye on the region around Iran, and then I started to pick up on President Erdogan, but he was struggling as a president when I started to follow him. Yet, as time went on, it was amazing. And you might recall back in July of 2017 that there was a coup attempt on Erdogan, and that was July 15th of 2017. And he was on the outskirts of the country, and then some people in the military tried to do the overthrow. And the next day, it was just fascinating. You can read about it on the website, BibleScienceHappening.com. But he got control the next day, Saturday, and then on Sunday, President Erdogan received a letter, and in that letter it talks about that the Muslim scholars of the world represent President Erdogan as the supreme leader over the entire Muslim world, over the entire world for the Muslims. And that right there just made Erdogan higher than Khomeini. That was fascinating to see that happen, and that was prophecy fulfilled right there. So he became higher than Khomeini in July 17th of 2017. So those two are checked off as those were fulfilled. Now, here's another thing that we're looking at in verse 19, 20, or prophetic point number 19, 20, 21. In Daniel chapter 8, verse 4, it talks about the ram. Again, the ram represents these two kings, Erdogan and Khomeini, but this ram is to push to the west, to the north, and to the south. And when you look at what Khomeini and Erdogan has been doing and is doing, clearly they are fulfilling that prophecy right now, and we'll see how much more of that is fulfilled as time goes on here. Prophetic point number 22, no beast or nation might stand before him, which is Khomeini and Erdogan, and no nation can stand up to Iran and Khomeini and Erdogan, and they push to the west, north, and south. And so that's being fulfilled right now. We see how dominant they are in that Middle East region. And then prophetic point number 23 is happening right now. Again, this is from Daniel chapter 8, verse 4. It says, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand. And out of his hand is Khomeini and Erdogan. And no nation can stop Iran, or that would be Khomeini and Erdogan. And so that's being fulfilled right now as well. And then prophetic point number 24 from Daniel chapter 8, verse 4. But he, which is Kamini and Erdogan, did according to his will and became great. And we can see how that is playing out right now as well. In prophetic point number 25, this comes from Daniel chapter 11, verse 3. He, which is Kamini, is described as a mighty king, shall stand up and shall rule with great dominion, do according to his will. And Kamini is fulfilling that right now as well. So then we get over to prophetic point number 26. And this is Daniel chapter 8, verse 21. And it says, the first king of Grecia, of the United States, and I take this as regarding the prophecy that Daniel is being shown. So Daniel wasn't shown all the other presidents leading up to this president right now. And how do I figure that this president that they're referring to as the first king of Grecia is actually Trump? Well, let's go ahead and just read through this one, then we'll go to prophetic point number 27 and 28, and you'll see why I'm thinking that is Trump. So the first king, we'll assume that it's Trump, of Grecia, which we'll assume that's the United States, began to reign. And this rough goat is the king of Grecia, again Trump of the United States, and the horn is the first king of Grecia, Trump of the United States. And again, what I'm getting out of this is that it's the first king being referenced in Grecia of this vision. Now, let's look at prophetic point number 27. This is Daniel chapter 8, verse 5. And the he-goat, which looks like it's going to be Trump, came from the west on the face of the whole earth and touched not the ground. And so, the he-goat is the United States, and the horn, notable horn, is Trump. Yeah, so what we're looking for is for the United States to go attack. Who are they going to go attack? Let's look at prophetic point number 28. This is Daniel chapter 8, verse 21. And the rough goat, the United States, and Trump, is the king of, Trump is the king of the United States. The horn is the first king of the United States. And confirmation of who Grecia is and who the first king will be confirmed by once Kamini and the other king, President Erdogan, are taken out of power, killed. It says that they're broken. So what does that mean? Does it mean that they're broken out of they're not in the office anymore? Does it mean that they're killed? We're not sure. We're just going to have to watch and see how this plays out here. So we are looking. Well, let's look at prophetic point number 29. This is from Daniel chapter 8, verse 7. It says, the he-goat will smote the ram and break his two horns. And so this is the death or taken out of power of Kamini and the other king, which is Erdogan. So that's what we're... So Kamini, back in March of 2015, he was diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer. The doctors at that time gave him 2 years to live. That would take it to March of 2017, here we are, close to approaching March of 2018, and he seems to be plugging along. So, but at the same time, what is he up to? I think he's 77 years old. He's getting older now. For an Iranian, and that's pretty old. So we know that these prophetic events are going to be playing out in the next few years. And so what we'll be looking for is who is the leader of the United States at the time that the United States goes over to attack Iran and Turkey and remove those two leaders. And whoever the leader of the United States is, that is the person that the angel was referencing as the notable horn of the he-goat. All right, now let's go ahead and take a look a little bit further into this now. In Prophetic Point 30, Daniel chapter 11, verse 4, his kingdom, Kamini's kingdom, shall be broken, and none of his posterity shall be the new king. And then over in prophetic point number 31, Revelation chapter 12, verse 17, Revelation chapter 17, verse 10, the fourth king is fallen. So now let's take a look at these prophetic points number 32 and 33. Well, they happen after the fourth king, but let's just take a look, see what they say here. His kingdom, Kamini's kingdom, shall be divided into a kingdom of the north, and then prophetic point number 33, Daniel chapter 11, verse 6. His kingdom, Kamini's kingdom, will be divided into a kingdom of the south. So when Kamini is taken out of power, then his kingdom is divided at least into a kingdom of the north and a kingdom of the south. And so these are the prophetic points that they're going to be coming up here in the next few years. I don't know if it'll be 1 year or 7 years, but these are going to be playing out, and we can see that they're shaping up to happen right now. 20 prophetic points number 27 down to 20, 29 or 30 or so, around there. We're going the right direction for the prophetic points to be fulfilled. But here's a significant thing that I want to bring out is that whoever is the U.S. leader at the time that we go and attack Iran and Turkey and remove those two kings, then prophetically that is going to be the last leader of the 50 United States. When the leader of the United States that initiates that attack, let me tell you this here, after the war with Iran and Turkey, that U.S. leader gets stronger, and then we don't know if it's months or years after that, he gets broken. So again, don't know if that means he get killed or he just leaves office or whatever. I don't know, but he is that last leader of the 50 United States, and then we learn that the United States will split up into four nations, and so for many years I've been given grief about thinking that could possibly happen with the United States, but now today we see that California, Oregon, Washington, Hawaii really isn't happy with the United States, and people can say, oh, I could see how it could split up into four nations. I could see the West Coast being a liberal nation, and the East Coast being a liberal nation, and I could see the Bible Belt being a conservative nation, and the Rocky Mountains being a conservative nation. And well, I don't know how it's all going to divide up, and we'll have to watch and see how it does. But this is why it's important. There's a lot of reasons why it's important, isn't there? But part of the reason that that's important is because the mark of the beast that's talked about in Revelation in chapter 13. Well, it turns out that prophecy happens during the time of the sixth king. It's towards the beginning of the sixth king. Here we are at the very end of the fourth king right here, and so there's a monetary system, worldwide monetary system that's going to be set up, and that's where the mark of the beast is going to be implemented at that time. And so why is this event? Why is this monetary system being set up? Well, the reason why is because that there's a really huge event that happens prior to that. It's called the Sixth Seal event. We read about it in Revelation chapter 6, verses 12 through 17. It's comets or asteroids or something that by the hundreds are going to impact the earth so violently that it's going to move every mountain and island are going to be moved out of their place. You can imagine the waves that will be heaved, and but that's going to wipe out a lot of infrastructure as we know it. There's going to have to be some rebuilding. Well, I can go on and on and on and on, but where's the best place for you to start with this? Let me tell you, getting the poster is great, but getting this book right here, the Prophetic Playbook Story, it's essential. It's easy to read. It's short. It's very powerfully informative, and it has a little bit larger print in it. And there's a lot of pictures in here, but one of the things that it has towards the beginning is a picture of the chart, not the poster, but the chart right here. And then a lot of the pictures that are in it in the book refer back to that chart there. So I hope that you'll take the time to order the book, and it will walk you through the prophetic events in general order leading up to the return of Christ. And it's in story form to bring out the factual insights. Very entertaining, very enlightening. But if you have never read the Bible, or if you're a Bible scholar or somewhere in between, you're going to love the book. There's just a lot of information in there. And then that poster is going to make a lot more sense. Well, it's going to make more sense, but you're still going to have a lot of questions when you read the book. And so after you read the book, you'll find that there's a website that's mentioned inside the book, to where after you read the book, then you can go to that website, and then I can walk you through the referenced Bible chapters, and I can show you the connections and correlations, the current events that are happening, tying in with them, and kind of much like what we've kind of gone through tonight, but on a more extensive basis there, and much more fun, and because it's more interactive, more engaging. So it's great to be able to have you get a quick overview by reading the book, and then we can go through those chapters and have you validate for yourself the connection correlations. And then after that, there's a special website, pretty much by invitation, that for those people who have read the book and who have validated the chapters. And then we get to hang out and we can talk about other Bible chapters. We can talk about other theories. We can talk about what we're seeing in the news out in the world that's showing that these prophecies are in progress, and what we see coming up, and what the ramifications are that we see of the different things that are coming up. For example, the prophecy for the United States to split up into 4 nations. Is that going to be a peaceful breakup, or is that going to be a civil war breakup? And we could be talking about those different things. We're going to be looking at those different type of things. But anyways, I hope that you found this very informative and helpful. But I hope that you'll see that stepping back and getting the Prophetic Playbook Story book is the best way to really go from here, because it's entertaining, it's short, it's enlightening, and very, very informative with that. So great to have you here, and hope you enjoyed it. God bless, and hope to see you on some other projects coming up.